A new era for WWE, a new world champion crowned, major fan backlash, and John Cena officially announcing for the 2025 Royal Rumble are just some of the highlights that we're going to cover in this video about the debut episode of Raw on Netflix. It was one of the most hyped up shows in the history of WWE, nay, the history of professional wrestling. Did it live up to the hype? Was it everything that people said it was going to be? And why was it probably not? We're going to cover all of this right here in this video, so be sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. All right, so before we begin talking about the show, just a few quick notes about this. Obviously, one of the most hyped up shows, as I said before, in the history of not just WWE, but professional wrestling in general. They made a point to tell you that this was going to be a historic night. And in many ways, it was. It is the largest arena gate in the history of WWE television. It is one of the biggest, shows they've done as far as people in the building. One of the coolest looking shows they've done. The Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, where the LA Clippers play, looked spectacular with all those lights, the bells, the whistles. The production was insane. And in that respect, as WWE always does, they delivered. I thought that, while some people may say that, the production was a little bit too much or whatever, but I think that this was the feeling of a big show. It gave that feeling. You saw the stars out. Macaulay Culkin was there. Karen Culkin was there. We saw a bunch of other celebrities. Travis Scott literally tried to light up a blunt live on the air, which they cut away from very quickly. But they told you through this production that they were going to present this as a big deal. The thought going into this was going to try to bridge the lapsed fans, the casual fans, and the current fans, and try to kind of please everyone. And that kind of combination is why I think this show did not live up to those expectations. Personally, I don't think that it was anywhere near where it was hyped up to. I thought that, quite frankly, overall, this was not that good of a show for Monday Night Raw, given the stakes and given the circumstances they were in. We will talk about that as we go. And there's no better place to start with respect to this than this segment with The Rock. So they open up first with Triple H doing this big hullabaloo hoopla speech, as we all thought. They played that awesome video package that kind of has divided fans about how they feel about it, because they kind of noted in that video package that, wrestling is a scripted show. I'm sure Jim Cornette is going to lose his absolute freaking mind about this, maybe. And, that whole thing aside, I think it was a good way to kind of introduce new fans to what WWE is. You're going to have millions of people tuning in. This is your debut on Netflix. You want to do that. Fully understand it. All right. Not that big a deal. However, this to me was one of the biggest, most baffling things on this show. Because The Rock had announced yesterday, as we covered right here on youtube.com/Real Take Wrestling, that he was going to be at this debut edition of Raw on Netflix. That was going to happen. And we all expected The Rock to be there. We all expected The Rock to... Maybe he won't be at Mania, like it's been reported, like it's been rumored that he has Moana reshoots, that he's not going to be at Mania. Maybe he won't be at Mania, but he will come there, be The Rock, be the final boss, and at least hint towards something in the future. And the promo that he cut, the way that he was speaking here was not The Rock. This was not the final boss. This was Dwayne Johnson. And it was clear that this was not supposed to be... I don't know what this is supposed to be, to be honest with you. Whether it's not supposed to be canon, and I'm just supposed to ignore this on the TV show, or whether this is supposed to be just The Rock kind of playing up a character. I'm not sure what this is. But he comes out. He has his People's Championship. He gives it to his family. Then he goes in the ring and begins talking about the history of this show. He starts talking about the largest arena gate, the debut edition of Netflix on Raw. He points to like Ted Sarandos in the crowd, who was like one of the executives over at Netflix, one of his good friends or whatever, who's got like his little Christmas present, the WWE Championship, and he's holding it up. And he starts talking about sponsors. He starts talking about, this was not about the show. This was not about wrestling. This was not about sports entertainment. This was not about any of that. This was about the business. This was them touting, oh my God, look at all these sponsors we have. Look at how great the business is. Like, but Mark Shapiro could have came out there, and the president of TKO, he could have came out there, and he's known to do this, like, or whenever he does an interview, just talk about like, yeah, we're here to extract all the value out of what we can, and you know, like, start talking about margins. The Rock basically gave a board of directors speech on Monday Night Raw. And while you're captivated by it, as we all are, because it is The Rock on Raw, it is something that is rare, it is something that is usually supposed to be meaningful. This was bad. This is bad. And not only, and again, like, here's the thing. We knew that he probably wasn't going to do Mania. That's fine. He doesn't even need to tease anything for Mania or whatever. That's fine. But what really ground my gears was what's next. Because he begins to acknowledge people who are part of this era. Nick Khan, Mark Shapiro, Ari Emanuel were there at ringside. Rock dapped them up, did the thing. Okay. One of the biggest stories and feuds that WWE has built up over the past calendar year has been Cody and The Rock. Teasing this tension between Cody and The Rock. And what does The Rock do? He acknowledges Cody with a big smile on his face. Sorry, not The Rock. Dwayne Johnson acknowledges Cody. Says he's going to lead us to the next era of WWE. Yeah. Daps him up. Is all buddy-buddy to the same guy that in storyline he went up to and like beat the absolute crap out of. And then after the show, on Dwayne Johnson's live stream on Instagram, these two are having a drink next to the same bus that The Rock like beat Cody near half to death in storyline. And I say in storyline because I'm aware that wrestling isn't real, guys. I'm freaking aware. But if you're going to do something like this, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. But there's blurring the lines of reality and fiction, and then there's just completely ignoring them. That's what happened here. Like, you are completely ignoring reality versus fiction, because part of the mystique about WWE, is that, like, you kind of, like, at least know when it's presented as the TV show. This is not, we don't know what this was. And it wasn't made clear what this was. And to do this, not on a post show, not on, a backstage kind of thing, the WrestleMania 40 documentary, whatever, that would have been fine. That's fine. I don't care about that. But doing it on the show that we watch, it's supposed to be linear. It's supposed to be, we're a global brand that tells stories, is what Triple H likes to say. What story are we telling here? Because in my view, you just diluted one of the best stories that you had going, one of the best feuds you had to go to. And if this is not WWE blatantly ignoring that, then it speaks to me that maybe The Rock is not going to do another match. Maybe he is actually done. Because the match that he wants to do is Cody. That is clear. From everything we've heard, everything that's been reported, everything that's been thrown around, he wants to do Cody versus Rock first if he has another match in WWE. Roman is his last match. And for them to do this, I don't know. It seems to me it's again one of those things where I was like, this is something I would expect from Vince McMahon. Genuinely, this is something I would expect from Vince McMahon. And Triple H is far better than Vince McMahon was, especially in his last couple of years as a consistent booker. But my God, this was just not it. And again, if like another wrestling company, whether it's TNA, AEW, whatever, did this, people would be talking, people would be chirping. But a lot of the same people won't be chirping here. I did not enjoy this. I did not like this. It was not for me. This was, again, a board of directors speech, a rah-rah, look at us, stand up for WWE type thing. Not my thing. Not my thing. But you know what is my thing? Glorious, glorious sports entertainment. And I was sports entertained by this next thing. We got to talk about Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, Tribal Combat. Amazing, amazing, amazing stuff here. Again, I'm fully aware this is more so of a segment. This is storytelling. This is sports entertainment at its finest. Look, I'm not even going to lie to you. The first 10, 15 minutes of this match were not great. Like, they dragged on. I thought you saw Solo try to do some good character work. Again, try. Was it exactly what it's supposed to be? No, but what really made this thing into something I thought that was spectacular was when you saw kind of like the WrestleMania 40 stuff start to happen, where it's like Sammy runs out, the new bloodline runs out, Jey Uso runs out. You get all these run-ins, and that is when I think that this really hits into high gear. So at one point, Solo Sikoa with his new bloodline ringside, he spikes referee Chad Patton and gets him out of there because Chad Patton did not count the count fast enough for him. And then we see Sami Zayn come out to even the odds, and Jey Uso come out to help even the odds against the new bloodline. Then, as those guys all fight to the back, a new ref comes in, and we see Kevin Owens, of all people, come out, and Kevin Owens hits a stunner on Roman Reigns. Kevin Owens, of course, I love this. They're still continuing that story of the guy who has the biggest gripe against Roman Reigns is Kevin Owens, because at the end of the day, all these years later, he cost him the world championship on multiple occasions. There, he had the world title won on multiple occasions, and Roman and the Bloodline stopped it. And he will never forgive Roman for that, much like Drew McIntyre. And that's a thing I think it could work into Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens and like maybe another person, maybe Seth Rollins. You get like a super group, right? Like a main event mafia type super group that all like come together to try to take down Roman and then take revenge on Roman. And they're all justified in that. They are all justified in their anger towards Roman Reigns. Anyway, so we get that. We get Tribal Court and we get Tribal Combat, and we get to Roman Reigns beating Solo Sikoa. And after the fact, he gets the Samoan necklace. They put it around him. Paul Heyman presents it with him, and then we get The Rock coming out. And this is where I was like, okay, maybe they'll tease something here. Maybe this is another thing. What are we doing here with The Rock? And he just comes out. He acknowledges Roman, puts the necklace on him, and then he just walks away. Roman's music plays again. Roman Reigns is once again your one true and only tribal chief. This was awesome. This was spectacular. Love this. More of this, please, WWE. If you're going to do the bells and whistles, if you're going to do the sports entertainment, this is what it should be. This is what it should be. Now, I don't want the world title scene to just be this because it was this for like 3 years and it got to a point where it was annoying. But I love the bloodline stuff as its own thing. Let it be its own thing. But good stuff there. We also had good stuff here, sad stuff here. John Cena comes out, and this is officially the launch of his final act, his final run in WWE. John Cena is retiring at the conclusion of the 2025 year. And he cuts his promo where he talks about how, everyone wants to see one more title win. Everyone wants to see one more achievement, whatever. But the truth of the matter is he hasn't won a match in over 2,000 days. It's a long ass time. And the fact of the matter is, John Cena's like, do I have it? There's a streak going on. I'm a perpetual loser at this point. I don't know if I still got it. I don't know if I'm still capable of being the John Cena of old. And at that point, the crowd really gets behind him. And there's this dichotomy of the way John Cena would cut this promo 10 years ago. If he cut this in the exact same way that he did, he would get booed out of the building, no question. But now, this version of John Cena, like, it's one of those things where the fans don't know what we got until he's gone. And as the more John Cena has been out of the limelight, the spotlight, all that kind of stuff, the more we realize what he means to WWE and professional wrestling as a whole. And he was so appreciated. The fans were all behind him saying, no, you still got it, all that kind of stuff. And then he turns it around. He manipulates the fans because he's like, I can't do it. It's not going to happen. I'm just going to come out and do me. Psych! And he just goes into ultimate cell mode. I'm entering the Royal Rumble. I'm going to win the Royal Rumble. The champ is here, all that stuff. This was awesome. And I don't care what anyone says. This was like, John Cena just coming out and doing like a same promo he would do like 20 years ago. I don't care. This got me. It is John Cena's final run. I am too much of an appreciator for what he has done, for what he's capable of, and the historic aspect of his time in WWE and his final run. I'm going to appreciate this as much as I possibly can. That's why I'm going to be out in Elimination Chamber. That's why, like, if they announce like a final pay-per-view for John Cena or his last match, I'm going to do my best to be there, even though WWE is going to do their best to price me out. But I mean, just like they priced out some of these people in this tickets. This was crazy. It was like $500 just to get in the building. Insane ticket prices. But again, they don't care about that. I'll tell you what I don't care about, though, this shit right here. All right. We're getting to the fan backlash party because, oh boy, was there a backlash to this. So Hulk Hogan, of course, owns this American beer company. I forgot what the name is. I covered it in a video just yesterday. But Hulk Hogan, he is now partnering with WWE. They have bought into his beer company, and it is on the ring mat. It is a big sponsor, quote unquote, for WWE. And he comes out. He was advertised for the show. He comes out, and immediately as his music hits, there is that initial pop of like, oh my God, Real American is playing. And then the second that the music, gets into the lyric part, right? I think people kind of realize, like, oh wait, they realize what this means. It means that Hulk Hogan is coming out. And this man got vociferously booed the second he stepped foot into the Intuit Dome. It was hilarious. Well deserved. I don't know what WWE expected out of this, because aside from Hulk Hogan's political beliefs, we'll take that completely aside, right? I'll forget about the MAGA Powers T-shirt. I'll forget about all the Trump stuff. Forget about all of it, right? Take non-factor. Boom. My guy, Hulk Hogan is a notorious racist. Notorious. For his tirades, his racist racial tirades, like where he said that, when his son got into a car accident, he's like, I'm scared that, me and my family are going to be reincarnated as black people. He chastised the idea of his daughter potentially dating a black man. It was just a real horrible stuff. I mean, and that's not including the controversy with the current beer company that WWE's bought into, where he allegedly, did not include or did not hire an influencer, I should say, who was black and basically like shut her out after agreeing to a contract. It was a weird is one way to put it. Personally, I would say, in my opinion, from my view, from my understanding, it seems racist, but I don't know. Anyway, he got booted out of the fucking building, all right? And poor Jimmy Hart. Even though, Jimmy Hart, I mean, he knows what he's getting into. I think Jimmy's just there for the paycheck. Shout out to Jimmy Hart for that. Whatever. But Hulk Hogan got booed, and this man was trying so hard to get the crowd back on his side, and it just was not working. WWE's trying to sweeten the noise a little bit because they usually add in a layer of crowd noise. I think they heightened it a little bit, but the boos were just too loud from people who were in the building who were telling me it was booze all around. Yeah, Hulk Hogan got booed out of the building. This segment was not good. And look, he's going to be a big part of the Saturday night's main event show coming up in a couple of weeks. I don't foresee them bringing him out there. I mean, although Texas, different market, I should say, than California. I don't think Hulk Hogan is made for a pro wrestling audience anymore. I think he's too much of a tarnished brand, in my view. people just see him and they immediately think racist. Like, that is just the truth, right? A lot of wrestling fans just see him and immediately think racist. And I think that, if this was UFC, it would be different. And again, that's why, like, the crossover between UFC and WWE has, like, never really existed in the way that either company has wanted, like, outside of a few people. But because, like, a UFC setting, Hulk Hogan would be, like, praised, and then that whole, like, American, like, beard thing would be loved and all that kind of stuff. But it just does not work in pro wrestling for whatever reason. And a lot of fan backlash. People hated this segment. I enjoyed it just with the sole fact that Hulk Hogan was getting booed out of the building and he couldn't save it, and he looked like a dumbass when he was talking about how, the fans are always behind me, brother, and then boo. So silver lining there for me. Another silver lining, we got to talk about this World Championship match. We've had a title change tonight. Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, WWE Women's World Heavyweight Championship on the line. By God, I have been waiting, it feels like, for nearly a year. It's been about 8 months, something like that, for them to finish this story. I've been waiting 8 months to see Rhea finish the story. Thank God in heaven that they did, because I have never... here's the thing. WWE had a lot going for them with this story. And then over the past couple of months, they've just botched it. It's been horrible. Some of the worst stuff they've been putting out on WWE TV has been this. Worst stuff. And it's not the fault of Rhea. It's not the fault of Liv. It's not the fault of Dom. It is just the booking has been atrocious. Horrible. The only silver lining here is that Rhea Ripley hit the Riptide. Not once, but twice. Got out of there with the win. She's the new champion. And it looks like they did at least somewhat of a payoff to the Dom stuff. Dom, after the fact, comes out. He's going to look like he's going to attack Rhea. Then Rhea turns around and says, "Oh, you got to do something, pal?" And he tries to go for a hug. Rhea fakes a hug, hits him in the no-nos, delivers the Riptide. Dominic Mysterio laid out. Rhea Ripley, your new women's champion. And then for no reason, The Undertaker comes out. and he literally interrupts Rhea's celebration. He rides around the motorcycle, and then they get this shot of Rhea Ripley and The Undertaker just looking at the camera. Another thing, look, this match was what it was. I'm not gonna go into the right person won. Praying to God this is the end of this. Outside of that, I mean, look, The Undertaker, there was no purpose for him showing up other than I'm The Undertaker. IP, intellectual property. It's almost like they booked this show for the executives of TKO and Netflix, because they're like, look at all the intellectual property we have. Look at all the John Cena, the Hulk Hogan, Rock, IP, sponsorships, American Riyadh season. We also announced that the Royal Rumble was going to be in Saudi Arabia officially, so like we covered, is what it is. Yeah, look. Legends just coming out for the sake of coming out. It's a very Vince McMahon trope. The only difference is, like, they didn't have Undertaker, choke slam anybody who's a current day star out there. So was what it was. The right person won here. The segment afterwards, I did not really care for. We also had Drew McIntyre, Jey Uso. Jey Uso came out with the notorious Travis Scott, who tried to light up a blunt. To which Jey Uso on the post show actually said, "I tried to get Travis to pass me the blunt, but he didn't anyway." But we got this. It was fine. It's just a continuation of the story. Drew McIntyre hit Jey Uso with a Claymore. He kicked out. Roll up to Drew McIntyre, and he gets away with the victory. Does Jey Uso, and it looks like we're continuing this. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do here. I really want them to maybe do something like that stable I talked about with Drew, Seth, and Kevin Owens going forward, and having them do like a super group against Roman. I think that's the best direction you can go in, because it just seems like the tension continues to build, because you have Rollins, who's in a feud with CM Punk, who just had a match, or who just teamed up with Roman. You have Drew McIntyre, who's going up against Jey Uso, who is like mad about like the whole like Jey Uso going back to Roman thing. You have another linear story there with Kevin Owens, who's mad at Cody for teaming up with Roman. Like there's a trend here. Those guys should all have a team up, as Billy Butcher would say. So we'll see what happens there. I expect that to continue. One thing I can tell you is this. Out of everything on this show, out of all the bells and whistles, and there were a lot of it, a lot of this show was just, we are WWE, spectacle, 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 and there's only so much of that you can have. By God, this was the best thing on the show. You had a story, and this was like, I would say this and like Tribal Combat were the two things on the show that were for fans who have been tuning in. This on a much bigger level, I think, because there was a lot of investment put into the idea of Rollins and CM Punk for the first time in over a decade, and they delivered. This was an insane match, an awesome match. WWE's match of the year so far. Surprise, surprise. A spectacular match. I mean, you could talk about it until I'm blue in the face. At one point, Rollins hits Punk with multiple GTSs. You have CM Punk trying to hit Rollins with his finishing move. Insane spots here. You had CM Punk actually take 2 pedigrees. It is... My God, this was a fun match. And I love the ending. The ending was actually a callback to Punk's final match, or not Punk's final match, but Punk's match against Jon Moxley at All Out 2022. That was when he won the world title. Everyone forgets about this match because it happened right before the Brawl Out Great Bomb press conference that like everyone focuses on, but it's like, in my view, the most overlooked match in AEW history. But you had Punk do a callback to that where he where Rollins kind of like falls off the ropes onto Punk, who's kind of kneeling already, into the position for the GTS. Punk looks up, realizes it, picks him up one more time, hits a GTS, flops on top of him with his last bit of energy. 1, 2, 3. CM Punk defeats Seth Rollins in a beautiful match. Spectacular, awesome, is exactly what it needed to be. And I hope that for now this is like the end, unless like they do a super group thing where like I talked about earlier. I think this was like a fitting end to this chapter of Rollins versus Punk. You can always come back to it. That's the beautiful part about all this. But I think this is a good end to this chapter. And after the match, Punk on the post show actually like dedicated this match to Chris Bay, which was really cool to see. As I said earlier, like I enjoyed this. However, overall Raw on Netflix, it was what it was. And I think, like I talked about before, I think they did a little bit too much of leaning into like what maybe the investors, sponsors, and less so even casual fans. Because I'm like, what casual fan really gives a shit about like, oh, like we have our Riyadh season sponsorships, the highest gate. I mean, people don't really care about that. I think from a visual standpoint, the show it looked really cool. I loved the drone shots. I loved the production. WWE's production is top notch. We already know this. Expected that, right? And it delivered and then some. But the content on the show was just disappointing. This was not a WrestleMania level show like it was being booked up to. And I think in that respect, fans kind of worked themselves a bit. You also have a new story coming out courtesy of bodyslam.net that Becky Lynch was actually supposed to be in the Undertaker spot. And then Undertaker, they were just like, oh, let's send Taker out there instead of Becky. So Becky's return is not coming. Penta didn't show up. And that's kind of was shifted around. It looks like he's going to be facing Chad Gable next week. Interesting stuff here, is to say the least. Again, and the last thing I'll say, like for a 3-hour show, this ended at like I think the 3:06 mark or the 3:03, something like that. I think it dragged for a 3-hour show, and I hope that WWE gets better at this. I hope that, and again, I expect there to be more storytelling aspects of it moving forward. But this was not a storytelling show. This was not for anyone who was excited about the hype going into the show. As far as like you're already interested. This was not for us, I guess. But I still think it even like failed the at what it intended, because I don't think people are going to be interested in watching a 3-hour show like this. But maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comment section know what you guys think. Am I wrong? What do you guys think about Monday Night Raw's debut on Netflix? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you not care? Hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Until next time, keep it real.